Hi, Jackie.
Hi, folks. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. How was practice, Harry?
Good. It was my last one for the season, so you know it's always sad.
Yeah.
Miss them. At least when you're teaching in the school where you're coaching, you get to see the kids every day. Now we'll see them for a while, but it was a really great experience.
We had both JV and varsity, right?
Right.
Hi, Jacqueline.
Hello, how are you tonight?
Okay, how are you?
Doing well.
Good. Good. Mr. Carney?
How are you today, sir?
Sir, fine.
Awesome.
And you?
Hanging in there.
Yeah.
Living a dream.
A little waterlogged. It's a little wet out.
I
Is
wish
it raining?
Well, it's been raining for the last 4 days.
True.
I didn't see it. I was hoping for rain here, but we got just a sprinkle. Jackie, you know you're recording already.
Oh, yes, it does it automatically.
Everybody.
Right up.
Hold on a second. Yeah, I was stuck on Route 94 in traffic. It's a little Harry Shortway's fault.
Probably accurate.
Of course.
Isn't it always?
Did you
You're
cause that,
probably
Harry?
out in some other part of the county too.
Right. All right. So, listen. Okay, call to order for the meeting of the Vernon Township MUA, June 3rd, 2021. Danelle, can you read the statement of compliance?
Oh, of course I don't have it up. I'm sorry.
I have it. Do you want me to?
Thank you. Yes. Can you please read it, Jackie? Thank you.
Sure. Pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Act, adequate notice as defined in Section 3D of Chapter 231 of this regular meeting was provided to the public and the press on December 22nd, 2020 by delivering to the press such notice and posting the same at the municipal building and filed with the office of the MUA as well as posted on the website.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America,
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
All right. We want to welcome a new member to the MUA, Scott Galloway. And how do we swear him in? Or who
Yeah, we have an
can do
oath
this?
of office.
Rich does
Rich
it.
has it.
I'm ready to go if you guys are.
Yep.
All right, excellent.
Rich.
Scott, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Scott Galloway,
I, Scott Galway,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States
that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties of the office of
all the duties of the office of
alternate number 2 of the MUA Board of Commissioners,
alternate number 2 of the MUA Board of Commissioners,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Welcome, Scott.
Congratulations, Scott.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard, Scott.
Thank you.
All right, Jackie, can you do a roll call of members and professionals?
Yes, so Michael Fury,
Here.
Paul Kearney,
Here.
Andy Pitsker,
Present.
Dave McDermott,
Here.
Harry Shortway,
Present.
Scott Galway,
Sorry, yes, here.
and Kristen Wheaton is absent. The professionals present tonight, we have John Albright, the administrator, Rich Wenner, the MUA attorney, Steve Benoski, the engineer, myself, Jacqueline McCabe, the recording secretary, and Rob McNinch, the auditor.
Great.
Excellent. Okay, let's go to number 7, approval of minutes, May 6, 2021. Everybody have a chance to review those minutes?
Yes.
Any discussion, questions?
Before we get there, do we want to open the meeting to the public?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry thank you, Andy. Let's make a motion to open to the public.
Motion open the public?
Seconded.
Motion made by Andy, seconded by Harry Shortway. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Is there anybody online from the public that wants to speak? Danelle or Jackie, do you see anybody?
No one online, and I did not receive any correspondence.
Same here. I didn't get any emails or anything.
All right, make a motion to close the public.
Motion to close?
I don't know who made that motion. I believe that was Paul Kearney. Seconded by Andy Pitsker. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, sorry. Next on the agenda,
No, it's a meeting.
the minutes from May 6th. Everybody have a chance to read those. Is there any questions, concerns that we have to make?
Good one. Motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 6th?
Motion to approve by Andy Pitsker. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Harry Shortway. Want to take a roll call?
We could take a roll call.
Yes, please.
Okay. Michael Fury,
Yes.
Paul Kearney,
Yes.
Andy Pitsker,
Yes.
Dave McDermott,
Yes.
and Harry Shortway.
Yes.
Okay. Number 8, discussion of the 2020 audit. We had a meeting with Andy Pitsker, myself, Jackie, and Danelle. Danelle, how do you want to present this?
I could just give like a brief overview.
Please.
Yeah, so we did obviously discuss the audit, and you guys all hopefully read it and went through it a little bit. It is a lot of paperwork. Sorry, Rob, to say that. But good news is that we're doing really well. We did really well last year. Our net position right now, which you'll hear me on the township side say a lot like fund balance, it's kind of what our net position is here on the MUA side, is over $659,000. That's increased from last year. At the end of 2019, we were at 242. So that is obviously a positive thing. That change is just over $416,000, and that is directly from the changes and strict budgeting that this board has moved forward on last year in 2020. So it's saving money, it's restructuring things like we did with our shared service agreements. It's just being mindful of all the money that's coming into the MUA and also the money that's going out of the MUA. So it's a positive thing for us. It is really great. The percentage change is 171%, which is incredible. I don't know if Rob has anything to comment on, but I was excited because there were no findings.
Just to add on to that, it was a great year. Danelle, I think you hit the financial areas I was going to touch on. From an audit and any kind of government audit, when we go through, we're examining 3 areas. We're looking at the financial side, the internal controls and the compliance with statutory and federal and state regulations. In all three areas, it was a clean opinion. We found the books were in great shape. Reconciliations performed timely. The system of checks and balances was not only appropriately designed, but working well. And then in the area of compliance, we, out of everything we examined, everything was compliant. We're doing what we should be doing. So overall, a very good year, a very clean audit. The resolution that's on the agenda tonight, this is more of I like to call it a housekeeping resolution. This is something we have to file with the state along with the audit report. The board needs to acknowledge that they've reviewed the findings section, which in this case there are no findings, and then provide an affidavit down to the state with the audit report. In other years, back before COVID, we would pass this affidavit around. Everyone would sign the one sheet. Now with COVID, with all these remote meetings, our conversations with the state, they're fine with accepting just individual signed affidavits. And Danelle, you could provide it to Danelle and submit the packet of that. But overall, very good year, a fantastic year financially speaking.
Any questions for Rob?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Andy.
No, I was looking on our meeting packet, page 24, when we talk about debt administration. When it comes to the debt for 1122 and 1123, the current amount is $5.4 million. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, what is the interest rates rolling forward on that?
Okay, so those are notes that we took out. So
Yep.
those interest rates change annually. We're going out for bonds on the township side. So just remember, these are held on this debt's held on the township side. So we're going out for bonds in July. I can't really tell you what that interest rate is going to be. But I can tell you that these notes were under 1%, I believe, last year.
Hopefully we can.
Yeah, so our debt service in the past couple of years, because the interest rates were so favorable, our debt service due back to the township just for the interest on these has been significantly less than when I first came on in 2018. And that's just because, that's how the market is. Now is a good time for the township to go out for permanent financing because of those interest rates. So that will only benefit us long term.
Okay. That's my question.
Rob, I have a question.
Yeah.
From your perspective, and for the board, we obviously did very well and we cut expenses. Like what did we do really well? Like where was the area that worked, that what we did?
Well, I think to Danelle's point, it was just that, and our observation was just the monitoring of the spending and finding ways to reduce some of these costs. And that's in our report. If you were to go to Schedule 3 of the report, it really breaks out some of the areas where we really had a lot of savings during the year.
Well, if I can, I could just thank the commissioners for their hard work, and Danelle really doing just a fantastic job, bringing us back in line. This has been a real sore spot in the community for a number of years, and I really think you guys have done a great job.
Agreed.
Well, you're welcome. Anybody else?
Oh, let's just keep going.
Yeah.
Well,
any suggestions on how?
Yeah, I come up with the motivation. The how and wherefore is up to you.
I was thinking the tin can on the corner.
Well, one of the things that I think we should need to do is put out a press release and put something out that, with a definitive, this is how much expenses that we cut down for the MUA in order to make it work. So I think that's something that we want to advertise to the public. I don't know if everybody agrees with that. I think it's appropriate. What I'd like to do is advertise that, and whether that press release goes out on the website and states this is what we did. And because what Harry says is this MUA worked very hard to cut down a lot of these expenses and make this MUA work, and we need to advertise the fact that we did that.
And I would also imagine then this is year 2 without a unless we said it and it skipped right past my ears. This is year 2 without a rate increase then.
Well,
potentially.
What do you mean by that?
Well, just like I said, without raising the rates, are we going to have to do that this year or not?
So, well, you mean for next year, for 2022?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2022.
That's entirely up to I don't know if I can really comment on the 2022 budget. I know, I mean, the good news is that, you know, it's not really good news, but the SCUMA debt doesn't increase until 2023. So we're still at $1 million. It's going to go to 1.5 in 2023. But those are things we need to keep in mind. So, you know, obviously it's up to the board about increasing rates and not increasing rates. I can say that the savings that we have here does go into that net position. And we did use some of that net position this year to offset rates so that we did not have an increase in this year's rate, right? So
Right.
that of that $659,000 at the end of 2020, we used a portion of that in 2021's budget to keep rates where they are. And that's really because we had an increase in the SCUMA debt service, and we won't see that increase again for another 2 years.
Okay.
And like Danelle, you said with fund balance, and we talk about net position here, it's so important that we build up, for lack of another term, and I think other people understand it, but our reserves, or sometimes they say surplus. We used it on the town side when COVID first hit to reduce the increase in taxes, and I think it's important we just keep going. And you guys have just done a great job. And I think a lot of it comes from the labor side. It's through the operations that you've been able to do this. And the restructuring, I just really think it's been a great job.
Yeah, so one of the things that we talked about is that there's money coming down, and then while we're talking about money, and Danelle can speak to it, there's money coming from the CARES Act in the form of, you know, I'm assuming it's $2 million, Danelle, $1 million this year. Can you explain that to everybody?
Yeah, so we talked about it a couple of times through the America Rescue Plan. Vernon Township will be receiving $2.1 million, and that goes obviously to Vernon. It's up to Vernon how they want to spend it within certain guidelines set forth by the federal government. We actually just today got some local finance information from the Division of Local Government Services on how they're going to implement rolling that out for the municipalities like us who won't get those funds directly from the government. So there's some municipalities that are getting it sent directly to them and, you know, direct deposited. And then there's the majority of us are not like that, and it'll be a pass through the state. So they're, you know, putting together ways in which they're going to be doing that. I just set up through SAMS. I mean, not that you know what that is, but there's it's a federal government thing to receive federal funding. We had to make sure that was all set up and that we have some information. But again, it's up to the township to decide how they want to actually spend that money, and they have a few choices. I mean, the big one that I've supported, and I know there's support from administration, and I've heard from this board, is for doing water and sewer infrastructure. We are allowed to use that money for that. So it's really a matter of how that money will pass through. So whether the township decides to send the money to the MUA, or the township decides to take on the project themselves and finance it directly through the township finances, it's really up to them. Right. So one of the reasons why I bring that up is I want to ask the board is what their feeling is should we, I don't know, draft a letter or make a recommendation to the township to utilize as much of that money for water and wastewater infrastructure. And is the board in favor of doing that? And since we don't own the asset,
The township owns the asset. We're a managing entity. Did you want to make that recommendation to the town to utilize as much of that money for water and wastewater infrastructure? So that's what I want to pose to the MUA if they support that. I want to see if mostly everyone on the MUA supports that, and whether we want to, you know, pursue that with the township, and how do we do that?
I don't think the resolution's going to hurt. Again, I don't speak for the whole council, but I think there's a consensus that this is a one-time deal that could help us increase our infrastructure without the debt, and this will help for long-term sustainability. You know, the wastewater, if we are able to increase the sewer service area, if we need additional pipes, but the potable water is a huge investment. You know, we've held off on it because it's estimated at $3 million. Where we were going to put it, there was no intentions of any other development. However, right now there is. We're seeing that on Main Street, but we can get creative with it. But I just feel it won't hurt sending that resolution showing the MUA's position to increase the infrastructure. And that $2 million doing that way does not add any debt to the town, because I don't think most people understand the MUA cannot take debt. All right, our only receivable are the fees or the rates. We have no assets; it's all on the township side. So if there's going to be any increase, the debt comes from the town. The MUA may be responsible for it, but ultimately, if something would happen to the MUA, it's going to fall on all the taxpayers. And Rob, please correct me if I said something wrong as far as the financials of Donnell, please.
You're correct.
Absolutely agree.
I would stop you.
Okay. Thanks.
I have one thought there, Harry and Mike, the rest of the commission, is I think that's a great idea, but I think we need to put a little bit more meat on the bones to say, is a description of what we intend to do with that $2.2 million. So give the council and the mayor a better idea of what the objective will be to spend that money. And then if anybody else asks, they have a clearer idea that we're just not taking it to say water infrastructure, is bring up a little bit more detail to upgrade this system, to bring in water here, just maybe 5 or 6 bullets to kind of give people an understanding why we think it fits in this area. Am I going too far?
I know. I think it's a good idea to make the recommendations where we should focus. Do you want to focus on Main Street? Do you want to focus on putting pipe down if we want to bring it in to like up to Mont Drive behind Dairy Queen? I mean, I think that's one area that I've received a lot from constituents that they need sewers. I heard today as much as $50,000 to put in a new septic up there, and I think the going price is probably about $35,000 a year, and that's a lot of money for homeowners to be putting in a sewer system, a septic system.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about, Harry, is that we specifically say where we feel that those monies will go towards the right parts of the project. By being that descriptive, people can understand what we're doing, putting a sewer and water line down 94 and then do it with the right intentions. And if somebody says, this is a talking point, well, I think not, you include Mont Drive, but what about Baldwin? I mean, that'll be the other one. So you can say, okay, let's look at adding that, but that's kind of where I'm putting the meat on the bones when we put that resolution out.
All right. The question I have, yeah, I agree. The question I have to Harry and Andy, since you're on the council, is it time to have another meeting, a joint meeting with the MUA and the town council? And now that this is out there, to meet with the council and say this is what the MUA wants to do, and just to see where the council feels about this, or do you just how do you go about saying because we're in a weird position because we don't own the asset and we can't receive the money. The money is going to come to the township. We can only make recommendations on how the money's spent. So I don't know, is it worth having a joint meeting with the town council to say, this money is out there, there's $2.1 million and it's an issue, and every town is getting this money, by the way. And I can tell you from my experience, a lot of townships and towns are using this money for water and wastewater infrastructure, that is what they're doing. They know the value of water and wastewater infrastructure. So the trend is to use this money effectively, and how do you get that to happen? You know, but it's ultimately going to be a town council decision and a mayor decision, not an MUA decision.
And, you know, Mike, I agree. I still think the MUA should do 5 or 6 points. Like right away, to my mind, people think there's sewer pipes on Main Street. There aren't any. There's just dry water.
Right.
There's no water pipes down 94 in front of Acme. I mean, are these things you want to look at? What about the force main down to the middle of the valley? Is that going to have to be sleeved in the future? We don't know that. We're going to have to test it. We talked about that at length at the last meeting. Where does that pipe stand? Because that would be a huge expense if we have to replace that, sleeve it, or somehow repair it. Where are we going to get the money to just test it? It seems like, right, Steve, that's going to be a difficult thing to do, to see where that pipe is, the thickness of the pipe, and what it's made of, et cetera, because it's underground.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because that leads me to the next. Should the MUA, since all this money is out there, should the MUA authorize, you know, Steve to look at to draft some kind of, you know, water and wastewater plan on how to best spend the money and what we'll need to I mean, we have an asset management plan, which is the basis, which is the starting point, but to draft some kind of plan to say, this is what we'd like to do. And then is that a good first step? And does the MUA want to authorize the engineer to go ahead and do this, put a plan together?
Mike, if I could interject something.
Sure, Dave.
Go ahead, Dave.
$2.1 million is big bucks to me, but well, as far as infrastructure and building and all that, it goes really fast. I would suggest that we put our bullets, like Andy was saying, or Harry, beside something that we could complete with the money we get. No matter where, rather than start something new, or in that respect, do something with it that we could complete, so that when we were done, we could say, okay, this is what we had, and now we're done with it, and we can move forward.
I agree. I don't want to start something and then we run out of money and we sit there with another, you know, not another, but something half completed or.
I mean, in the future, again, we need to do a priority list. Should water be coming down Route 94? We all know the problems of Vernon Inhance. One of the big falling out points why that deal is never closed is because of the septic issue. I think it's like $200,000 to put a septic system. If we had sewer pipes all the way there, maybe that business would have sold. And again, you have that, I don't know if it's a C1 stream, but you have the stream there. How best do you go under it? Do you go over it? I think the MUA's got to set some priorities where, based on what our engineer guides us, and a lot of other you guys are experts on water and you're engineers, where do we go? What's the priority? So you can advise the council and engage the council. And all this is done right out in the open so the public hears.
There's another part of that, Harry, I'm thinking about. Mike speaks to this all the time, is that we have also other funds available for fresh water, correct?
I know through the USDA, you could get some funds that way. Wastewater is a little more difficult.
Right, but we, you know, when we're talking about doing wastewater and fresh water, once you dig a ditch, you got the ditch open, you can do both. So,
Correct.
and you know, Danelle and I were talking about projects, and I like where we were going with this with Paul and Dave said, it's like, let's get one project and bite that one down and finish it. But at the same time, if we can simultaneously look at fresh water and drop both lines in the same ditch, then it's, but they're two separate projects that go simultaneously. But we use that money to cover, like going down the 94 corridor is a great idea, but let's prioritize those and then we can give something to the town. And Steve, I think you might have a better idea, but we'll take your advice first. And the rest of us, I think we can pitch in, but you probably have a better idea what the solutions are based on experience in other areas.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike, we're
I
going in
think-
different directions. That's why we go, we want wastewater
Well,
and we
no,
want fresh water.
I think, Steve, if we could, if you can work on some kind of document that looks at a priority list of capital projects, you know, based on your understanding of where we're at now, and just put that together and then present that to us, the MUA. We'll review it, comment on it, and then that'll be part of our presentation to the town council, because I'm confident that Steve can put together a list to say, hey, and it's not like, you know, you say, oh, we have $2.1 million and this is, you know, we're going to spend this much money. You got to understand this, besides the $2.1 million, there's a lot of iBank money and funding that's available out there. So it doesn't just stop with the 2.1 million. There's a lot of other funding sources and they're coming down the road. But I think we need to make a priority list as an MUA. And then once we have a priority list or document, then we can approach the town council and say, oh yeah, and the mayor, and say, this is what we discussed. This is what our list of priorities are. It's not an exact spending of the money, but this is like the big picture. And then we can make a recommendation, say, we would strongly recommend that we use that $2.1 million to, and Dave's right, by the way, the $2.1 million, if you put it through water and sewer infrastructure, there's a lot to do and it'll go quickly. But
Exactly.
I'm not saying have exactly how to spend the money, but to put together some kind of plan. And it's like almost like, Steve, when we're talking about like a master plan for the water and sewer, you know, a starting point, like a blueprint, and then we'll go from there. Not an exact one. We're not asking you to put money. We're not putting figures on everything because I don't think that's fair to do at this time, but just like a master plan.
And it's, you know, we have to also give priority what's going to give us long-term sustainability, not only in the rate users, but also on the taxpayers.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that, Harry. So, you know, we put this plan together and then we present it to the town council and we say, this is what we think we should do with it. Do you think we still need to pass a resolution or make some kind of recommendation to the town council and mayor? Is that necessary at this point, or should we just like put a plan together first and then move and go from there?
I don't know, Rich, do we need a formal resolution? Doesn't a letter or a memo right to the mayor and council just serve its purpose?
It serves the same purpose. You're right, Harry. Yes. So I think it is important to, as Harry mentioned before, have some nuts and bolts behind the letter. You know, give some ideas, starting points, a vision for how the MUA feels, or what the MUA feels should be the next steps. But a simple letter will accomplish that same purpose.
But we probably should have a resolution for Steve to start working on the plan, right? Because that's going to incur some expenses and considerable.
Yeah, if that's correct. If there's going to be expenses above and beyond Steve's normal fees, then there should be a resolution for that, a proposal from Steve outlining that.
In the meantime, then we should send a letter of our intentions then to the mayor and council. Yes?
I'm sorry, Andrew, I couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry. Shouldn't we at the same time then send a letter to the mayor and council on our intentions that this will be coming forward once Steve is done with his priority list? Just so that money is set aside before somebody else goes crazy with it?
It's just communications. I mean, you can't go wrong with communicating with the mayor since he is the chief executive and he can forward it all to the council.
Okay.
That way everybody understands it.
I've already been in communications with him and administration about that funding, so.
Okay, good. Then I guess the question is to Steve, how long do you think it would take to pull something like that together?
These things can be very comprehensive and they can be kind of as comprehensive as you want them to be. Let me put it that way, right? So, you know, honestly, it may be helpful to You know, like I heard a couple people had thoughts on what would be worthwhile things or potentially worthwhile things. It may be good to, you know, I don't know if you call it a starting point, but perhaps just to get these ideas that, you know, Harry or Andy or Mike or Paul or whoever may have, just, you know, so that we kind of collect these ideas as so we aren't, you know, missing something that someone may think's important. I don't know, maybe, you know, if it's kind of big picture stuff, I don't know, maybe a month or so, maybe a little bit longer, depending on something like that.
Be fine. I can pull together some of the points that we discussed tonight.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Right, let's go that way, but I'm thinking you bring the big picture. You don't have to get into the finite details. I don't know what anybody else thinks.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
Steve, you'd be
and
able to give
I
some
agree
like
with that.
general estimates, right?
Yep.
You know, for like a main down 94 versus, you know, water infrastructure,
Yep.
right?
Yep, we can do that.
All right, good. Thanks, everybody. That was a great discussion.
Hey, Mike, I don't know if you know this answer or anyone on the panel. When you buy open space, you use township money to leverage to get money from Green Acres or the county. Does that work the same here? Like we say, we identify a project, we have this $2.1 million, we're going to use that as leverage. Will that help us get USDA money or IBank money?
I would say no.
Okay.
I don't think they leverage it. That's my opinion. I mean, the iBank money is you put in for a project, and if it's a legitimate project, then they fund it. They're not. There's a generous supply of funding down at the iBank and USDA. So it's a matter of applying and getting the money. You don't leverage. I mean, I could be wrong, but maybe Rob can answer that. I don't really think that's the case.
No, I think you're correct in that sense. And usually these iBank projects are fairly, you know, it's a fairly straightforward project or process with that. Where if you have a project, you apply. And right now, I think to your point, this is a very good time on a number of levels if you are interested in that. Just because, you know, we have favorable rates and they do have an abundance of funds down there.
And we're already in that process. I mean, I know Danelle has already applied, and we're in the process of getting funding anyway. So, and then we're going to obviously try to get more funding too, if it's available once you have an identified project. You know, obviously Pump Station 2 is an identified project. That's next on the list, and then we go get the money, and then we identify other projects as we move forward. So I think let's do that. Let's put, you know, have Steve work on a master plan that we can, you know, put together, and I think that'll be helpful for everybody. All right, next is number 10, discussion of connection fees. Danelle, you want to?
I think we need a resolution on the audit, of the acceptance of the audit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, resolution.
That's
Yeah,
true. Mike.
resolution 21-33, an audit resolution and affidavit. Do I entertain a motion to pass that resolution 21-33?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Dave McDermott, seconded by Harry Shortway. Roll call?
Yes. I have Mike Fury,
Yes.
Paul Carney,
Yes.
Andy Pitsker,
Yes.
Dave McDermott,
Yes.
and Harry Shortway.
Yes.
All right, number 10, thanks Danelle for pointing me in the right direction.
Thank you.
Discussion connection fees. Danelle, can we talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So Rob is on here for this too. So I did ask Rob's firm to put together the sewer connection fee rate study, which you have in your packets. It's got a lot of calculations on the debt services that were included in that connection fee. The MUA has the ability to review their connection fees and determine whether, determine a ceiling for that connection fee. So we did that here during, this study. You can see what that connection fee currently is calculated at, but obviously the board can determine what their connection fee would be underneath that. And again, these fees could be reviewed annually. So that's what we're doing now. And I don't know, Rob, if you had any specific items you wanted to discuss. I know I have a couple of things, but you can go first.
No, I think just that this is what this is just, it's a one-time fee to connect. It's based on a statutory formula that essentially takes what the MUA has invested in infrastructure and divides it by the number of VDUs at a given period of time. And that'll give us a ceiling. I think to Danelle's point, this is just the maximum. A lot of entities I work with do charge the maximum, but I also have many that go below as well. So that's not uncommon. And I'll let Danelle continue, and certainly any questions I can jump in with this.
Yeah, so Rob broke up in Exhibit A. I don't know if you guys have it in front of you. He broke up each portion of the debt service that's included in the connection fees. In my administrator packet, I made some little comments and read about what each one was, because in case you didn't know what ordinance 00-33 was, or what that's paid, who pays that, or ordinance 1122, 1123, we talk a lot about, and then the portions obviously attributable to our capital infrastructure costs over the years that we've had the MUA. That's what that last dollar amount is. So I don't know if anyone had any questions or comments about these specific types of debt line items that are included, but I did want to just point out that I did have Rob break it out by each individual debt that we have incurred.
So basically, as we've always talked about, is the first line on page 71 here, is that the upper SCUMA basically gets the top line, 2171?
Yeah, so that's the amount that we've paid so far, or I said that amount is based on the amount paid so far to SCUMA for their debt service portions.
All right. Now, this is based on a projection for 2021, but our number is actually higher than this currently, correct?
Yes, it would be the amount that we've paid so far, yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
And in this calculation, usually what we do for 2021, we would actually use the figures up until 2019. And then typically you do this, you do it 2 years behind, just because you would be, do the availability of the financial information, and usually when you would be adopting that connection fee, it's usually in the beginning of the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just think this might be a good projection to put on once we decide on what we're going to put on there, put that on our website as well, of how it's broken down. Or Danelle, I see you grimacing at that one, so maybe not such a good idea.
No, it's a draft report, so it's up to the board if they want like a breakdown of all the items that are included. But again, this is just a ceiling number, right? So the ceiling number is this number. The board could determine that they wanted the connection fee to be less. And I know that the board has talked about that in the past, reducing connection fees. I actually had a conversation with Rich today too, and it's like on topic, but related to something different. If we had large developers come in town, how could we address, address hundreds of EDUs, right? Like, how do we address that? Because that could possibly be cost prohibitive or not, right? That's something that the board could discuss and determine. So something Rich mentioned is that we could also do something where it's kind of like a sliding scale, like a sliding down scale. So for the first, let's say 100 EDUs, it's, whatever the connection fee is, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, right? And then the next 100 is X dollar amount, and the next number 100 is, a lower dollar amount from there. There's a lot of things I think the board can do, and they have leeway to do to decide on what their connection fees are. But this would be like our ceiling number.
Okay, good.
I have a question for Rob. we cannot do anything about Sussex County, the MUA's connection fees. We have no impact on their connection fees, right?
Correct.
The only thing we can do is reduce the township's MUA connection fees if we want to. We have the authority to do that.
Correct.
So the question, and this is the next question. If we reduce the connection fees, our connection fees, would that have a large financial impact on the MUA? Like say, whatever they are, we cut them in half. Like, from your perspective, or would that have a big impact on, we have shortfalls, we wouldn't meet operational costs? I mean, what's your opinion?
If you want, I can speak to that a little bit, Rob.
Yeah.
So this year, so in the past few years, we have not received a significant amount, a substantial amount, I should say, in connection fees, obviously. A lot of our existing customers were already connected to the system. This year, we've brought in around $15,000 in connection fees, which I did not anticipate in this year's budget. So it's kind of like extra that we've gotten that we didn't anticipate getting, which is good. That helps our net position. But I don't feel comfortable anticipating connection fees until we have, an expanded sewer service area plan, until we have more infrastructure going in the ground, until we have more businesses that are coming to that can physically connect in our sewer service area. That being said, should we do a expansion, obviously you would address these connection fees during an expansion. You're going to look at the total cost of what that project might be. If it's $2 million, you're going to say, okay, this is how much the infrastructure is and would cost us, over the life of whatever loan we're taking out for that, and then determine those connection fees at that time. So, I mean, my financial opinion, and I mean, Rob has seen our books going back more than I have, but there's not a massive substantial amount that we're bringing in annually that it would affect us annually. When we first started connection fees and people first started connecting, that was a little bit different because it's like a one-time influx of fees, but you're not going to see that. It's usually only you're going to see that, right? The connection fee where people are connecting, that's when you're going to see that the revenue really come in. It's not like a constant recurring fee.
Agreed. And the one other point I would, or point I'd make here is, even if it's something where we are aware of significant construction, at least in my experience, sometimes there are delays with the connection. So if you anticipate something in, let's say, this year, well, sometimes you won't see those connection fees for maybe another year or two, just due to whatever delays. So it's always risky in that sense. Anticipating that as part of revenue or basing your budget on that, or being dependent on it.
Right.
What is the board's opinion on reducing connection fees? Does everybody agree that we should reduce them?
Well, I think depending on what the finances are, if it's going to project stimulated growth and then sustain EDU rates, because the people that already paid, years ago for this, but they'll see savings over time if more people come online. I think it's definitely worth it. I have a question. I don't know, to Rob or Rich. If we had a large developer come in and the mayor was to negotiate a pilot, could connection fees be part of that pilot if the MUA is also involved in that discussion?
Well, Harry, the pilot, as I'm sure you know, and perhaps many of the board know, apply to the improvements themselves that are constructed on the real property. That, to my knowledge, it's not. I don't believe the law allows it to be applied to infrastructure costs.
Okay.
However, oftentimes there are contractual agreements, particularly in terms of a redevelopment project, when you negotiate a redeveloper's agreement, where there is a bargain for connection fee that may perhaps deviate from the connection fee established by the entity, whether it's an MUA or a sewer utility. owned by the township.
So if it's a totally new development, that couldn't be part of the pilot. It would just have to be a simple, whatever money you save on the pilot, you put it into the infrastructure.
Right. It would not be part of the financial agreement. However, you know, there might be room for negotiation on a redeveloper's agreement in that context, but that would be separate and apart from the financial agreement.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So is it fair to say that, you know, even though we're not taking on new customers right now, like this is not a pressing issue, we don't have to do it right now, but we can, as a board down the line, reduce connection fees if we want to?
Yeah,
I mean, in my opinion, my opinion, we can do it.
I mean, yeah, sure, we could do that. But I want to see numbers and what the effect of it is going to be, you know, projected. You know, so I mean, the numbers aren't real numbers because you don't really know what's going to happen, but some kind of idea if there's minimal additional hookups, how it's going to affect our bottom line down the road.
So Danelle, can you do like some kind of financial analysis if you reduce it in half or maybe even 75%? Like, you know, what's that impact going to be? And you already kind of said what it's going to be, so the board knows what it's going to be.
Yeah, I can put
I
something
mean,
together.
my opinion, this is my opinion, that the connection fees have to be reduced, or you're not going to get any developers coming in town because of those you know, outrageously high connection fees. Developers are going to go away and not want to come to town with these huge connection fees. So
Yeah,
my opinion, you can reduce it as much as possible. Go ahead, Paul.
I'm sorry. I don't disagree with what you're saying, and I'm inclined to go that way too. But I just feel, at least for me, it would be more responsible on if I'm voting on something. If I just had a little bit of a, you know, some kind of a forecast of any actions we take, what the reaction is going to be, or what the result is going to be if things don't, if we don't start getting additional people hook it up. I just like to know where that debt goes in the future before we vote on something.
So are you saying, so if we don't do an expansion, you're looking to see if we cut the connection fees where they currently are, how that could alter our revenues, like moving forward only on the existing system that we have?
Correct. Because I mean, we all would love to expand and we'd all love to see things happen. But, you know, with DEP changing what areas we can and cannot do, I mean, that's one example of unexpected things that come up. You know, you can't plan for the unexpected, but you can kind of be a little ready for it. And I don't want us to make a decision without at least looking at what could potentially happen if we don't expand and get additional people hooked up, and that extra inflow of money's coming in, where we would end up. I mean, we came onto this MUA as commissioners with a dire financial future, and I just want to know that we're not going to do something to make it worse.
I think, Paul, if we do something like the Remington Barnick report did, different scenarios. If A happens, B happens, this is the bottom cost that we're looking at. If we can get different scenarios so we can make a decision. I agree with you, Paul. We need some numbers, you know, from educated numbers like our CFO and Rob. Where do we think we can go with this?
Just think it's a little more responsible if we, on our end, if we have something to point to.
It definitely makes a difference if you have a set of facts in front of you before you make your vote, and that way, when the second guessers come back and all the rest of that goes along, you can say, well, this is what we based our decision on,
Correct.
rather than a wing and a prayer.
you know, one thing people ask, well, we're professionals consulted on this. Where did you get, you know? So if you know, things don't go the way we anticipate, hope, or plan on them going, and the questions are asked down the road, you know, what made you make this decision? It's right there. This is the information we had. These are the projections. This is what we based our decision on, not just because we felt like it on a given day.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Yeah,
so what I'll do is I'll put some stuff together. I'm probably going to be using and basing off of existing vacant properties that are undeveloped and not connected to the system. I can't really like forecast current businesses that are already connected that could maybe be something larger, right? So something
Right.
that goes from an office to a restaurant is obviously going to have higher EDUs. I can't really like forecast that, right? But I can look at vacant properties that we have in our town center, and there are a number of them that could possibly be connected to the system without an expansion, right? And then kind of base it off of that, like what could those build outs look like, and what could that bring in based on based on the ceiling connection fee versus you know, if we were to reduce that.
I have another question. So then we spoke about this at a different meeting, in regard to the connection fees, that if people showed hardship, they were allowed to pay it off over time, whatever that time is. Is the amount the same if it's paid over time, or is it or does it?
I'm gonna have to go back and look. I know that a lot of times other utilities will decrease. They could say, okay, the connection fee, let's say the connection fee was $10,000. Okay, your connection fee, if you hook up in the first year, could be $7,000, right? Like I know that some do that. They like have the connection fee or reduce the connection fee if you connect within the first year or within a certain period of time. I would have to see exactly what was billed out to those people that had extended payments. I don't recall, and I'd have to go back to probably the minutes to see what was done when the first connections were approved.
Yeah, because I think that's something we should consider, because, you know, if we get an expansion and now we have all of these hookups, you know, getting it over time is good. You budget that way, but if there's incentive for them to pay it quicker, you know, that's just a better, you know, inflow of money. And you know, getting overtime will work as well, but you also want to give incentive to not have to carry this debt. Not that it's debt, but, you know, it's the money's coming in slower. It's nicer if it comes in one shot. You can pay off the debt a lot quicker that way. So.
Well, and it'll be helpful too. Like if we did do an expansion, you think even with, I mean, you'd have to do a financial analysis, which I would assume we would do before expanding, but you would want to make sure that the capital infrastructure costs not only like are covered, right, by those connection fees, but then it's only a positive to have additional flow into the system because of our SCUMA fees, right? So that will help us. Just the additional flow alone will help us more easily pay off that SCUMA, those looming SCUMA bills.
Right.
I was looking back at my handwritten notes here, and I think that the meeting that you would want to look at was 4/15 of 21. Connection fee under discussion. We should try and cut ours back if possible. Danelle was going to survey rates from other towns. Maybe what you need to see or what you want to see is that would be 4/15 of 21.
Yeah, I did do the survey from other towns. It was in a prior admin report that I sent around. So the only other town that has a lower connection fee than us, oh my gosh, Jackie, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure that it's just Hamburg. I think they're the only ones that have a lower connection fee. But the key to that is that even ones that have higher connection fees, like Franklin has a much higher connection fee than us, their quarterly rate, their annual rates are less than half what we charge. Right. So because of the massive SCUMA bills, where we can't decrease our rates, right? So so we can have lower connection fees, but we don't have a lot of new people coming on to connect. So I think it would be more attractive, and this goes to what Mike was saying, it's more attractive to a business to go ahead and pay the $15,000 to connect in Franklin because they're only going to be paying $600 per year, right, for their sewer fees, versus coming here to Vernon, paying $11,000 to connect because now you're paying $1,400 in annual fees. So that's, we're gonna run into that as long as our SCUMA bills are as massive as they are, and we're paying the lion's share.
I got you.
Yeah, so ultimately, what we're going to try to do is restructure our entire policy, our MUA policy toward connection fees. That's what our end goal is, how to do that.
Yeah. Mike, I'm actually in disagreement with this. I think it's the wrong strategy. I mean, one of the things we talk about is this connection fee is somewhere in the middle between all the other ones. It's competitive. We can always, if we have somebody big coming in, we can work on the numbers. But what we really need to do is look at how we can get more people connected and spread out the cost of the rate. Is at the end of the day is that you pay this one-time connection fee, but you pay your sewer bill every quarter, and that's where you get this paralysis of why businesses don't come in here. We can negotiate the connection fee for big businesses coming in, but the actual sewer rate is what's killing us right now. So I'm like, why would you take something of value? Why would you take something of value, which is connecting to the sewer system, versus having your own septic system? That's a value to the customer. But our fees are what burn them every quarter. So I'm looking at it from a different side of the strategy. That's why I'm going that way. I'm looking and saying, no, I don't want to go this way.
I get where you're coming from, Andy, but I also
I'm not going to disagree with that. The rates are incredibly high, but that's a separate issue. The rates are one thing, connection fees are another.
No, I don't agree with that one. And this one is where, we've got to look at the value is in the connection, is that once you get connected, you're connected. You have no septic system to support. Yes, we could reduce the rates or modify them a little bit, but it's the sewer fee that we need to spread this out so that we can collect more from more people. But don't do any of that. If you want to reduce the rates, don't do that until you're ready to actually do the expansion.
Well, I think I agree with Mike in the sense that these are two separate issues. They both could be addressed independent of each other. But the connection fees, and I get your point, Andy. It's money coming in, and but you're asking people to, especially if it becomes mandatory or something along those lines, where you have to pay whether you're actually hooking up or not. You're asking somebody, to come up with, a lot of money in one shot that some people just don't have. And I am sympathetic to that, but I'm also sympathetic to the fact that we do need the money coming in. But they can manage a quarterly bill probably better than a lump sum of money going out in one shot. I think both items need to be addressed, but I think they are two separate things altogether. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it from a different angle, saying that we got rates that are out of sight compared to everybody else. Yes, we need to address those in a different format, but to even talk about a sewer connection fee reduction until we're ready to expand. I mean, we can look at the numbers right now, but let's hang on and wait till this actually starts to move. Because we only had 2 connections so far, and we may have 4 more, right, Danelle, this year?
Yes.
And that's it. So, I mean, that's a low impact compared to what we got coming up down the street.
No, we have time. We have time to address the connection fees based on it's not going to have a much of a financial impact on the MUA. But I think to Paul's point, let Danelle put something together, some kind of financial analysis to say, these are the connection fees at this rate. If it's cut in half, what's going to happen? If it's cut by 75%, what's the impact? And then let her put those numbers together, bring it back to the MUA, and then we can decide, what we want to do, how we want to move forward. But like you know, I agree with Paul. We have to see the numbers before we make a decision to reduce connection fees. I'm not saying, I would like to reduce connection fees, but we, you know, what Paul's saying is valid, and what everyone else is saying is what's the financial impact on the MUA before we make that decision. And we need to know that. And Danelle, if you could put that together, we appreciate it. I think that'd be the best way. And then we can down the road, we can, you know, re-examine if we want to reduce it. I hope everybody does that. I think that's the way to go, right?
And I think the solution here that agrees with both Andrew and Paul is to attract businesses in our current source service area, meaning the town center. And this is what the mayor and council is working on, to make it a destination. So there's expansion and development in the town center that's already in the source service area. And that would go to both points. More EDUs, then you can discuss the connection fees. You need the businesses to open. And that's going to fall on the township side to marketability of the town center. Why would I want to open a business in that town? What's pedestrian traffic, et cetera, right there. That's got to be the focus. And we're going to need the help of the township and the Economic Development Advisory Committee to get people into that center and develop on. Andy, you said today, well, how many lots are vacant right along Church Street? And
Church Street data, and the other one is 14 lots. Just in town school, that short area, 14 lots is what we have.
Right.
That doesn't include the 10 acres across the street either.
Yeah, let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the numbers and then revisit it. I think that's the best way to do it. I think everyone agrees, you know, that's what we need to do. And then we'll revisit it at another meeting. You know. All right. Does that make sense?
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. That was
That
good
was fun to
discussion.
argue the opposite part.
I agree. Next on the agenda is the administrator report.
Yes.
I know,
Sorry.
okay, I know Howie's not on the meeting tonight, but he couldn't make the meeting. But Danelle, can you give your report?
Yeah, sure. So regarding Mountain Creek and the pump station and the transfer station, I don't really have any updates on the transfer station other than, you know, the last correspondence we had with the DEP and how we've directed Steve to handle the pump station application. But we did meet with Scott. Steve and I met with Scott on the 1st, and we went over the discussion on the build out and how the pump station would be built. Obviously not to the full max capacity of a max build out, because that would be a much larger pump station, which we know is not, like, that's not good to do. But it would obviously leave room for development for Mountain Creek. I think the meeting went well. And I also gave them, you know, some generalized information about the possibility of a transfer station if that went through, and what kind of revenue, you know, we would be looking at and how it could affect their deficit obligations. And just to let you know, I had discussions with Rob about that before I spoke to Mountain Creek about that.
And now, just for a point of order, when you said Scott, you mean Scott Baldessano from?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, Scott Baldessano. Yep. Steve, I don't know if you had any comments about that meeting, but I think it went fairly well.
Agreed. They seemed on, or not seemed, they were on board with everything we had presented as far as the flow memorandum prepared and the concepts for the pump station. So yes, it went well.
Next on my list, obviously we talked about the connection fees just now. The force main evaluation, I know Steve, we're waiting. Howie is going to get some information from Gem Electric on our electric check valves to see if we can do anything from there. I know that the piping is different. Steve, you're going to sound way better at this if you discuss this. But the pipe is of different material on where we were originally going to do those coupon cutouts. So that's probably not the best way to go to check the integrity of the pipe. But Steve, I don't know if you wanted to add a little bit to that.
Yep. So I'll try to keep it short here. So we had discussed potentially taking coupons, which is basically you take out a section of the pipe and analyze it, or visually analyze it, put calipers on it to get pipe thicknesses, things of that nature. And our last meeting, we had talked about doing that at one or two of the crossings, but the design plans indicate that the pipeline itself is ductile iron pipe, which has been the most common pipe for the last, I don't know, 30 years or so, but the two crossings are steel pipe. So any information you got on that steel pipe would be, it wouldn't apply to the other, 9,900 feet. So unfortunately, in hindsight, that was not a good idea. And then the reason why we have Howie checking on the check valves is because, essentially that pipe is all, and essentially, and the next alternative that we are thinking of is up closer to the pump station, kind of where you're at your high, up closest to the discharge pump station, where you're at your highest elevation, which could be another area that's more susceptible to hydrogen sulfide attack and things like that, where the pipe would be tend to be in worse condition. We were, and that's an area that could be, we'd have to work out logistics. It could be an area that's relatively easy to excavate to get down on the pipe. Then you could take a coupon there, and maybe you could see CTV it from there. You could do a number of things. But the issue is that the check valve is keeping the sewage in the pipe all the way up, basically all the way up. So it would make it a lot easier if basically those check valves could be kind of opened a little bit to allow some reverse flow back into the wet well, so you can empty out a length of that pipe to get a better evaluation on it. So that's why we have Howie checking on those check valves now.
Steve, I have a question along the same line about, is it a good idea to do pressure testing of that line? And
Yeah.
Is it possible to do a pressure test?
Yeah, so when we looked at that, essentially, it's one 10,000 foot long piece of 8-inch pipe, essentially. And if you think of it like more similar to a water main, say, that you test, normally you would test that in 2,000 to 3,000 foot increments. And the longer you get, the harder it is to run the test. And kind of the more inconclusive the evidence is. If you have a small, it makes it a little bit harder to quantify the leaks. And if you do have a leak, then it's like a needle in a haystack trying to find what the issue would be. So we didn't think that would be the optimum way to try to look.
Along the same line, what you're saying, is it a good idea to possibly put it, to sink a valve halfway down the force main in order to do that pressure test, or is that not worth doing?
Yeah, well, we thought about that too. The issue that the little bit of a complication there, and anything could be done, but the pipe is like 6 feet off the rail track, right? So you're real close to the rail track. So if you start excavating, if you have to excavate, you have to excavate. But if you start excavating there, you kind of, it's a little
dangerous.
Risky. Yeah. If you're doing something that you don't need to do. So again,
so the best way to evaluate.
Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you, Steve. It's risky. It probably can't be done, and it's a long run. So the only way to do it is just do some kind of camera work down the line to see the integrity of the pipe.
And basically, we were thinking that could be done somewhere up on the upstream side before it gets to the pump station discharge. But and that a lot of the success of that would be dependent on being able to empty that pipe a little bit through the check valves, which Howie's checking on.
All right, good. So Danelle, if you could follow up with Howie to get that done, that's
yeah, they're
critical.
coming in Monday or Wednesday next week. So the sewer service area mapping, Jackie and I went through all of the blocks and lots that were removed from, well, Jackie did a whole ton of work. Thank you. She's amazing. Making a list of all the blocks and lots that were going to be removed by the DEP. And we went through and we kind of asked them, we created 3 different spreadsheets on blocks, on lots that would be smoothed out, which is one of their criteria they were willing to do if it was, not a high percentage in the environmentally sensitive areas. There were a couple other ones there was one that already has prior land use approval. So hopefully that one will go through. I did push through and request the other ones that are adjacent to that property, because that property is actually proposing to input a lift station up by the Alpine Snowshoe Trail. We've talked about that before. So I'm hoping that they will allow the other properties in, at least the ones that are not like completely engulfed in the ESA. We sent it to Paul. So he emailed us a small list of properties, because I guess he didn't put together a list of properties. So Paul DeMiro emailed us a list. He said it wasn't finished yet. He was still working on it. That was on the 21st of May. We gave him our list on the 26th. He was on vacation. The rest of the DEP seems to be on vacation, and they are supposed to be ready to meet with us on the 8th. We'll see. We'll see. I'm hoping if they just say thanks for the list for doing our work, and we'll accept everything.
So our meeting with the commissioner and Senator Oraho didn't motivate Paul DeMiro.
We got we got some emails, but we didn't really get like we were looking for a list, and he sent us there weren't that many properties.
From the source, and that, explain to the board what needs to be done, what do we have to give them to get it done? Like, I don't understand I know they're on a vacation. They're not doing what they're supposed to do, but we had a meeting with Senator Oraho and the commissioner of the DEP. You would think they would have been motivated to get moving on this. It's what's their problem?
Yeah, I did include the assistant commissioner as well on those emails, so he's at least aware, hopefully, that the original list wasn't done.
So they're asking you for this list, right, of properties, and that's what they want to do. Like, what are they trying to? I don't understand what they're trying to do.
Yeah, well, basically we've asked, right at the meeting, we asked them, we said we need some clear direction. Like, we want the list of the properties that you're willing to smooth out for us, that you're willing to include and leave in our existing sewer service area. And we got a list, but he said, he hasn't finished it yet. So we took it upon ourselves to do the list ourselves, and send him a list of the ones that we feel could be smoothed out. And hopefully he looks it over. I emailed him today to confirm he got it, because I sent it and I didn't get a response other than he was on vacation. So he responded back this afternoon saying that he got the email, and he's reviewing it, and we'll hopefully have it reviewed by the 8th for our meeting.
So we basically had a meeting with the commissioner and Senator Oraho, and nothing got done. It's like, I don't know what to tell you. It's like if these people can't do their job, and Senator Oraho is telling the commissioner, you really need to do your job. It's incredibly frustrating. I live this every day, dealing with the DEP, but it's just absolutely incredible that this goes on. You know what I would honestly do? And it would have helped to say, I do not want Paul DeMiro to work on this anymore. And you ask the assistant commissioner to get somebody else to do the job. Because I'm not, I don't know what to tell you. This is, I'm sick of sitting on these meetings with the DEP and Senator Oraho and nothing getting done. This is it's like a joke. It's ridiculous. The town is being held hostage by the fact that DEP can't get their job done. And Harry, we said, let's get Senator Oraho to intervene, and maybe that'll motivate him. You know what it did? It did absolutely nothing. All it was that meeting, that phone meeting, was them talking to each other about, how great this is, and nothing got done. It was it's just ridiculous.
Well, the EPA funnels money to the DEP, right? That's how a lot of the financing goes. They get financial dollars from the federal government.
Yes.
Well, then I think we got to go up the level to the federal. Andrew and I were with Congressman Gottheimer today, and he was with the acting commissioner of the DEP yesterday. And we know, with Senator Warho and Josh Gottheimer, we've gotten things done before, and maybe we step it up the level. Because I wonder how much of this is politics too. I know, unfortunately, Senator Warho took a loss yesterday against New Jersey remaining emergency powers, trying to reduce Murphy's powers, and it could be politics again. Murphy's running for, I hate to bring it in, but let's look at the big picture here. So maybe it's time to go to the congressman who understands our plight, whose office has worked with us over the sewers and legends and the dirt pile since he's been in office. So 6 years, and maybe it's time to make that call because Congressman Gottheimer, if we make a call, he comes up. And with him and Steve working together, maybe then we'll get something done.
Well, if you can reach out to Gottheimer and say this is going nowhere, because I am not going. I refuse to ever go on another meeting with the DEP. I didn't even want to be on that meeting. It was just a bunch of lip service and nothing got done. It's like I don't care about politics. I mean, politics. What are politics? It's like the township is not going anywhere and not expanding their sewer service area because the DEP can't get their job done. I mean, really, we had the senator and the commissioner on the phone, and nothing got done. Nothing. It's really? And the commissioner's like, oh yeah, we're gonna work on it. And then he told the assistant commissioner, yeah, let's get something done. And Danelle does what she's supposed to do, and then those people don't do what they're supposed to do. Like, what is this township supposed to do? Sit back and do nothing?
Well,
I mean, really?
No, I wasn't at the meeting. If you want me to make the phone call, or Danelle or somebody else that was at the meeting to make the phone call, I would just have a bullet list and call Congressman Gottheimer and said, listen, Steve's helping us. We got him on board. This is really a nonpartisan issue, but the realistic picture is it's politics. It's politics all the way down. Who's going to do what? Who's going to do for what? Because this has been going on since 2015 about a source expansion area. And here we are 6 years later, and I don't even know how close we are.
Yeah, well, the one thing that Steve Warro said that, and this is meetings with, not with the commissioner, is that he has to go to the governor. He's going to go to the governor. Well, go to the governor and say, why isn't your DEP doing their job? And I think that's a waste too, because I think maybe Gottheimer may be able to contact Phil Murphy and say, yeah, what's going on? We just want to watch Vernon go nowhere. I mean, it's just incredibly frustrating, and it's like, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, maybe go to Gottheimer and see what he can do, but I don't think, Steve Warho jumped in, and I give him a lot of credit. He tried to help us. He met with us, but it was like, it went nowhere. It's like it goes back to the DEP, and they just say, oh yeah, we'll get to you soon. I mean, the assistant commissioner was on the phone call, the commissioner, Senator Warho, and I don't know, a dozen other people, and nobody got the point. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It's incredibly frustrating. And this MUA and the sewer system is never going to expand unless something is done. And maybe Howard, the mayor, can reach out to somebody and do something about it. But to sit there and do nothing is unacceptable. I'm done for tonight.
We're all frustrated, Mike, and unfortunately, the taxpayers and the rate users, it's going to be on them. Because there is a deadline, that's 2023, when those bonds skip up to $500,000 a year. You know that the DEP, it's possible the DEP will not be back in their buildings and back at their jobs till January 1st. Just think about that. Everyone's back to work, but they're sitting home doing nothing.
And if that doesn't make you mad, then it should make you mad. So I don't know what to tell you. After that, I'm done talking about this. I'll get off my soapbox.
And after our meeting next week, I'll obviously update you guys immediately afterwards and let you know how it went. Next on our list, the capital list. So you guys have the updated capital projects. Hopefully this list makes a little more sense. I kind of tried to adjust the way it looks so you can see what items are complete and what are not. There are actually a lot of items that are like almost complete. We're just awaiting delivery on things that we've ordered a while ago. There are a couple things that I wanted to go over. So we did get training, some free training on the Muffin Monster for our guys. They said that basically there's no maintenance that we really have to do on this type of system, but within 5 to 7 years we will just have to buy new bottoms, like just the grinders. So that's a positive thing. We won't have to buy like a whole new one. We're also the screens are working really well. The screens that Howie had them install. So we actually don't need to buy additional ones because they're not going to function well at the other lift stations like Brandywine. So the ones we have are good. We won't have to spend any more on those. They're working really well. The other thing, something that we did want to discuss. So currently on the majority of our lift stations have Sulzer pumps. Those are the smaller pumps. They're less expensive, but they don't go in reverse. So if we have a clog or something, we have to deal with those. And we've had to replace those a lot more frequently than we had the Zoller pump, which is at the Black Creek lift station. So an idea, and obviously it's up to the board, is whether or not we want to start at some point replacing the lift stations with Zoller pumps instead of continuing to use the Sulzer pumps. I think long-term it's probably a good idea just because it might be a little bit more of an investment up front, but because we've replaced the Sulzer pumps more times, I don't think we've ever replaced the Zoller pump. It just might be a good investment moving forward, whether we do that this year or next year. It's something that I mentioned to Howie we should discuss with you guys. Let's see.
Any thoughts from Steve on the replacement of those pumps?
If, yeah, I'm not aware of the particulars of the non-reversing, but that generally is, that generally is not a preferred situation, certainly.
No.
So, I mean, other than that, Sulzer is a fine pump, but if it doesn't, if that isn't a feature, then that's certainly not desirable.
Okay, so I'll continue to work with Howie on that and see, if we want to do that, if that's something we want to do this year or next year. Again, it's probably around $28,000 to $30,000 for those kind of purchases. So we'd have to do like formal resolutions for that. Our RFP for emergency services, I'm just finishing up. I have a phone call to Tom Carroll this week, that's tomorrow, to finish that up so that it's done. There's just some minor things we have to take care of. And then that can be obviously advertised. We'll put it on our website. I'll send it out. I did actually have one contractor found out about it. I don't know how, but they found out about it and they called me. So I told them I'd email it over to them if they wanted to reply for that. So that's a good thing. And we'll probably post it on the lead municipalities as well. Our safety review and confined space. Obviously we finished the safety review. Howie's been working on updating some of the outstanding items. A lot of it was signage. So that's being taken care of. He's also the official confined space program coordinator now for Vernon Township. So Vernon Township is supposed to have a confined space program in general. They now have one. So he is the coordinator, and that obviously includes our confined spaces on the MUA side. So I did attach the confined space plan with the written locations, which were items that were outstanding on our safety review. And that's pretty much it for me, other than the water infrastructure stuff, which we spoke about. I don't have anything else.
Comes to capital, how are we to budget now?
You're significantly below budget on capital.
All right, because I'm looking at the Zoller pump spreadsheet. You're saying they're $3,500 a piece?
Yeah, and we have to get 2 for each lift station.
All right, that's why you have the number there. Okay, good.
I
Any
don't know if anyone
questions for
had
Danelle?
questions. Yeah.
Okay. Number
Yeah.
12. You got a question?
No.
All right, good. I'll entertain, Howie's not on for the licensed operator update. I'll entertain a motion to open to public for items not on the agenda.
Make a motion.
Oh, second it.
Motion by Harry Shortway, seconded by Andy Pitsker. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Is there anybody from the public that wants to speak?
Everyone's hands raised and nothing in the chat.
So there's nobody there. So
There's
I'll
no
entertain a
hands
motion. To close.
raised.
All right, good. I entertain a motion to close to the public.
I'll make
I'll
the
make
motion
that
to
motion.
close to the public.
Motion by Paul Carney, seconded by Dave McDermott. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, we'll move on to commissioners' comments, and we'll go to Andy Pitsker first.
Well, I guess basically my comments are this audit, Danelle, as I said, really proud of what we've done. I mean, $416,000 saved for 2020 is an outstanding number to work with. So everybody's done a lot of work to make that happen. Hopefully we can achieve another number similar to that next year. When it comes to the reportings that I'm seeing, I like these reports. The detail is good. One question, Steve, is can we get a project timeline on Pump Station 2 yet? I haven't seen
Absolutely.
anything yet.
Yep. No. I will. Sorry, Danelle and I were discussing that today. We did have a goal of getting the permit applications in May, which a couple of things happened and we didn't meet that goal. We intend to have those ready next week. One thing that I personally wanted to see happen first was to get confirm Mountain Creek's buy-in on the flow rates and the location, all that, which happened this week. So based on that, we can update that and get that out, an updated schedule for that.
Okay, thank you. That's my comments for tonight.
Thank you, Andy. Harry Shortway.
I'd like to welcome Scott aboard again, and just sincere appreciation to our professionals and the commissioners for the excellent work you did in 2020 to have such an outstanding report to get a hold of these finances going forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Paul Carney.
No, I think everything's been said tonight. I really don't have anything to add.
All right, thank you, Paul. Scott, do you have anything to say? I know you're new. You've been listening intently. Do you have any comments?
No, I'm just really happy to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to working with everybody here. I have a few questions, but I'll talk to Harry about some things too, and then come a little bit more prepared to the meeting next time. But thank you.
Good, thank you. My comments, I said enough tonight, so I'm just going to leave it there. So the next on the agenda, entertain a motion to go into a closed session 21-34 to discuss legal matters.
Respectfully, does Dave McDermott have any comments?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
right.
Dave.
No sweat. I said what I wanted to about the money coming in and how I think we should, whatever we do, we should put it to something that we should finish. And other than that, I'm good.
Thanks. Sorry about that, Dave.
That's all right.
All right. Number 15, resolution 21-34, motion to go into executive session, discuss legal matters.
Yeah, potential litigation.
Potential litigation, thank you.
Motion to go into executive session 21-34.
I'll second it.
Motion by Andy Pitsker, seconded by Paul Carney. Roll call?
Mike Fury,
Yes.
Paul Carney,
Yes.
Dave McDermott,
Yes.
Andy Pittsger,
Yes.
Harry Shortway.
Yes.
Okay, so
All right,
we also
so-
need to do a roll call like before we go in. So Jackie, if you can do a roll call, all of the commissioners present before we go into executive.
So Mike Fury,
Here?
Paul Carney,
Yes.
Andy Pittsger,
Yes.
Dave McDermott,
Yes.
Harry Shortway,
Yes.
and Scott Galway.
Yes.
Guys, would you like me in this session or?
I think we're good. Thank you so much, Rob, for coming
Thanks,
tonight. I
Rob.
appreciate it.
Thanks,
you.
Rob.
Thanks,
And
Rob.
thank you, Steve, as well. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we don't.
Guys,
we don't
take care, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks,
care.
guys.
Good
Take
night.
care.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, Steve and Rob.
Time to move over.
And Jackie, you're coming here, right? All right, cool.
All right. See ya. Be back later.
Can anybody hear me? I still can't hear anything if anybody can hear me.
Okay. Boy, we know how to come back quick, don't we?
Getting there, getting a hang of it. It's
Yeah.
only been what, six months?
Amen.
How long has it been since we actually had a meeting, like in person?
We had one or two back in February I was involved in, and then we went, no,
No, couldn't have been.
yeah, it was because Rich swore me in first time, 2019. That was, yeah, we had some meetings in person. Been a long time. Guess sometime soon, Paul, we'll go back into live sessions, huh?
Yeah.
I know, this is much more efficient, I think. No travel.
Works for me.
Yeah. Harry's just smiling.
Great. I don't have shoes on. It's awesome.
Oh, I was worried about that. I saw that look, Jackie. I know my daughter's going back to work in Washington, D.C. face to face in July, so it's going to be a culture shock for her.
I mean, myself, I've been face to face the entire time.
Yeah.
We had to go to work. Everybody.
Yeah, you were on the front lines the whole time.
Yeah, for some reason, I don't understand. Like all these other frontline people, the firemen and the nurses and the doctors, and they just can't seem to do their job without us giving them water. I don't know. It's
Water. 70% of our bodies is water. Of course, it's Mike, right?
I keep pushing him over, but I don't know what's happening.
Send him the link again, Jackie.
Let's see.
He says he does this with GoToMeeting, never has a problem with this. He can't function on Zoom.
Oh, here he is again. Let's see.
He's an attendee.
Yeah, I pushed him over 3 times. Let's see.
Doesn't show up on my screen. There he is.
And then he
is.
comes. Yep, let's see. Hopefully this time.
Then we have Dave McDermott.
No.
Dave's not up.
Mike is connecting to audio.
Hey, everybody.
All right, Mike.
Yeah, I got knocked off like 5 times. This happened at the GAC meeting the other day too. I must have got knocked off like 7 times.
Don't take it
Vernon
personal.
Township doesn't want me. Is Vernon Township telling me something?
Yeah, I think so.
You like that, Harry? I made you laugh, right? We're missing Dave too, right?
Maybe they're trying to tell him something.
It was refreshing for Harry to hear it today, instead of him getting blamed for everything Howard got blamed.
Okay,
As you
Dave, I
remember-
just allowed to talk. He just has to unmute.
There we go.
There
Hi,
we go.
Dave.
All right. Do we have everyone on? I think it is yes.
Just here, Dave is here, yeah, we're good.
All right. I think we got everybody on. Want to entertain a motion to reconvene?
Motion to reconvene?
I'll second.
Motion made by Andy Pittsburgh, seconded by Harry Shortway. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay. Danelle, can you read resolution?
by title?
Yeah, what's the resolution about? I don't have it.
So it's resolution, it'll be resolution number 21-35. And it's authorizing the initiation of a lawsuit against Sussex County Municipal Utilities Authority.
Do I entertain a motion to pass resolution 21-35?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Dave McDermott, seconded by Andy Pittsburgh. Roll call.
Mike Fury,
Yes.
Paul Kearney,
Yes.
Dave McDermott,
Yes.
Andy Pittsburgh,
Yes,
and Harry Shortway.
Yes.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
second that.
Motion by Harry Shortway, seconded by Andy Pittsburgh. All in favor?
Aye.
No, anybody opposed? Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Thank
night.
you. Bye.
Welcome
Good night.
welcome aboard again, Scott.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, all.
Bye.